All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Get Real Girlfriend podcast. It's been a minute since I have filmed an episode. I'm kind of rebooting it. Episode number 6, and I'm super excited to introduce, is it Iliriana?
Iliriana, but
Iliriana
it's
or Illy,
Illy.
otherwise known as Healthillie on Instagram, on TikTok, and
That's it.
I've been following you for a while, and I've definitely resonated with you quite a bit. But do you want to kind of introduce yourself? What do you do? How did you get into all of this? And the whole gamut.
It's a lot. Oh my god.
It's
Start
a
from
lot.
the beginning. So
Lay
the day
it
I
on
was
us.
born, I just so how did I get into it? I don't know. I feel like it just like any other wellness person, you're kind of just thrown into it because you have no freaking choice. You feel like shit and you're like, all right, how do I feel better? So I think so about 10 years ago, because I'm 30 now, when I was 20, I became a personal trainer. I got really into the fitness world, training, doing the whole bodybuilding thing for like a hot minute. Right. And then I was doing the whole calorie counting. I was like, well, that's really restrictive. I'm going to go into macro counting. And I was like, well, now I kind of have an idea of how my macros are. And then I got into like the whole food freedom, like all food fits and no food is good or bad. And that was like really when my health was at its worst, because I was just kind of eating whatever I felt like eating. Yeah. And that's when I started having like just really bad acne, chronic bloating, the migraines, the eczema, the fatigue, everything like all at once. And obviously I went to a doctor and they're like, well, I don't know what's going on. Ran tests, sent me to specialists. They ran tests. Everything came back normal.
Have you tried birth control?
Yeah. Have you tried every medication that we could throw at you? I'm like, I don't want to try any of that. I'm done. Yeah. Because I was only 25 at the time. I was like, I don't want to be on 20 different prescriptions, you know?
I feel like even when you're asleep, you're like, I'm young. Shouldn't I feel
And
good?
I was. Like, I was literally going through my Instagram the other day because I was trying to find videos of me drinking since I don't drink anymore. Right. And I was trying to like because I wanted to talk about my sober journey and all this stuff. And I found all these videos of me literally going home that day with prescription medications from my dermatologist for like steroids and topical steroids and antibiotics for my acne and stuff. Crazy. And I was like, hey guys, like, do you think like which one should I take? Like, I was so I didn't know. I was so blind to it all, you know? So I was there. This is like not too long ago. And then you just eventually hit this point where you're like, this isn't normal. I shouldn't feel like this. Yeah. And then you get into holistic wellness and you just wake up. So that's kind of how I got there. And then I started sharing from that time. I started sharing my journey on Instagram to like just my friends and family. And people started resonating with obviously like what I was going through. Like, wait, how did you clear up your acne? Or how did you stop your bloating? Like, I don't understand. Like, blah, blah, blah. Without taking any of those prescriptions that you were just showing us like a year ago. And I was like, well, I just started going down this rabbit hole of wellness and looking into my own biases. Because obviously I was a personal trainer and I looked the part. Like, I had the abs and I had the strength and I had, the persona. Healthy. Yeah, I looked super healthy and super fit. And I just wasn't. So I started just cleaning up my diet and getting into what real nutrition actually should be instead of what made, my heart happy, which at the time was like eating Oreos and going to Wendy's and that stuff. And I was like, okay, I need to stop doing what makes, my heart happy, and I need to actually do what's good for my body and what my body wants. And
where did you kind of start researching? Like, where did the rabbit hole begin for you?
Oh my God, I don't even know. It's hard for me to obviously like remember exactly, but I know the biggest thing was obviously I was super into aesthetics because I was a personal trainer. So I was the most concerned about my acne. So I really wanted to figure out how I can get rid of my acne. I didn't really care that my periods were horrible because I would just take, Motrin for that or something. Yeah. Or a Midol or Excedrin or whatever. And I didn't really care that I had chronic bloating because I can just, take something for that. And all the internal symptoms I cared less about. Right. So I was really focused on my acne, and I started kind of just researching other ways to get rid of acne, and that's when I kind of discovered the liver. I was like, wow, your liver has a role too. Like, it's not just my muscles matter, Yeah. So I started looking at how to support the liver, and that's kind of when I got into like herbs for the liver and how to like detox the liver and support the liver, and that's how I got into toxins and endocrine disruptors and how they can affect acne. And kind of through trying to heal my acne, I ended up healing other parts of myself. Yeah. And that's when I was like, holy shit, this is what holistic wellness is. Yeah. Like, I was so focused on my physical and I did all these things, that it was a ripple effect for the other things. So I've noticed that my migraines were starting to go away because I was getting rid of fragrance in my house, and my PMS got better because I got rid of a lot of endocrine disruptors. So it kind of was like a backwards to move forward, because I was like, I'm focused on my acne and how I look. And that's kind of when I just said, you know, like, fuck how I look. I want to feel a certain way. And that's kind of when I stepped away from bodybuilding and really just pushing my body to these limits, and just started working out to feel good and eat to feel good instead of counting my food and doing all this crazy stuff. And I got rid of dieting completely. I got rid of all my supplements. I didn't take a single supplement, not even like a multivitamin, for a year, because I was like, I just want to focus on food.
Yeah.
And now here we are today. And that's pretty much the like long-winded thing. But yeah, that's kind of, it was like a backwards way to look at it, because I was like only focused on my pimples.
Yeah.
You know?
How long did it kind of take you to clear all that up?
I would say probably like consistently like a year and a half of just working really hard towards, like, from figuring out that I didn't want to take medicine to feeling like, wow, like I'm healing. It was probably like a year and a half of like all the research and waking up and
and I feel like that's a huge reason why like people like us go out and talk about everything, is to help try to like expedite that, because what took me, you know, like 2-3 years to get rid of a lot of different symptoms that took like a lifetime to accumulate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying. Like, I just had I mean, if you take a different test, well, you're going to find something new every time.
Always.
Like, I just did acupuncture, and I was like, oh, I feel great. Like, this is probably the healthiest I felt. And she's like, oh, by the way, like, your kidney and your chi are really... I'm like, oh, thank you. Literally. Another thing to worry about.
Absolutely.
But for the most part, this is probably like and again, that was 5 years ago. I was 25. When I show people pictures of myself, they're like, you look older than you do now. Like, you just, when you're healthy, it just shows through.
It really does.
Everything. You feel more, you look more vibrant, you have more energy. Like, I thought I had energy at 21, like, oh, I could party until 4 a.m. Like, that's not energy, because I would be out for the count for like 3 days.
Dude,
like,
seriously.
Not functioning.
When I think back to how I felt at 21 versus how I feel now, like, it's literally night and day. I swear I look either the same age or younger than I did then. Because I mean, when I was 21, I was just like messing my body up, and like I had crippling insomnia. I was still taking Vyvanse and like Xanax to sleep, Vyvanse to stay awake, and like it literally would take me like 3 hours just to get out of bed. And you would think that that's normal at that point. You know, you go to the doctor and they're like,
gets you through.
But you're like barely surviving. Like, it's so crazy to look back and think about how I was barely just scraping by, and how everyone just kind of affirms that that's normal, that mental illness is normal, that having no energy at 21 or having no period or like having crippling periods is just... It's just normal.
Because everyone deals with it, and it's like really like misery loves company. Because I remember I would talk to my friend like, oh my God, same. And I'm like, okay. Where now that I don't feel like that anymore, when I hear people complain how bad their periods are, or how bad their migraines are, how bad their acne is. And I'm like, oh, well, I healed mine, you know, by getting rid of, you know, the couple of things I see you doing. And they're like, oh, well, I can't relate to you because you're just so different than me. And I'm like, no, I was literally there, like not so long ago. But when people don't see you, it's also hard, especially I think for what we do, is we're already coming from a place of like, we've lived and we've learned. So people can't imagine you ever being where they were. So I always try to go back and like find old videos of how I was, and
like I was literally like you. Like I was just as either asleep or in pain or depressed or fatigued as you were. But we just had to take the steps and work really hard to get here. And people think like, oh, like,
so you know, for you to
you have this advantage or that privilege that makes it so that it was easier for you to get there. And it's like, no, like we had to work really hard to be able. We still work hard every single day.
2020, and I literally got fired from my job. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and that's when I had to really bunker down, get rid of a lot of products, and have like, what's my one staple cleaning product? Because I can't afford to keep buying Windex and Clorox and bleach and this and that, and now I have one. And instead of buying 50 different skincare products for my acne, I was like, all right, what are like 3 good staples? Like, I've gotten so much more minimalist.
Simplification is key in the healing process.
People think you need all the fancy shit. Like now I'm
No.
almost 5 years in, so I was like, now I have like fancier stuff. I'm like, that's because that's what I asked for Christmas. Like the holidays come around, I was like, get me a sauna blanket, you know? Really? Like I'm not asking for designer shit or a brand new car, you know? Like these are the things, like I'm investing in my health now. But yeah, people, it's so hard to kind of explain and help people understand. I was where you are. Like I grew up in a household where my lunch was Velveeta mac and cheese and I'd heat it up in the microwave, or like dinosaur chicken nuggets, and I was drinking the Gatorade and the Jell-O, and I did all of that. I went through that for 25 years of my life. And then I reached a point where I was like, I can't live like, I really started thinking long term. And we were just talking about this. I was like, I don't think people think, can I keep doing this in 10 years?
Yeah.
That's where I started thinking. I was like, all right, if I'm on prescriptions at 25, or actually like 23 when I really started going to doctors. Right. Do I want to also be 33 and 43?
Because we hear people say, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I'm like, no.
It's not good.
You don't understand. I heard someone say there's a lifespan and there's a health span. Yeah. Like you might live till 90, but you may feel like shit for 50 of those years. Yeah. I want to feel amazing and be able to run. I want to be able to run and play with my grandkids when I'm like 70, 80, even 90 in that case, you know? And we get to make the choice with every decision we make in our lives and our environment and what we put in our bodies and who we have around us that either contributes to or detracts from how we feel and our overall health. And it's like crazy. People just really don't have that long-term vision. They're just like, I want to enjoy my life. Okay. Do you think that eating hot Cheetos every day and drinking every weekend and like fun. Eating McDonald's is enjoying your life? For me, enjoying my life is being able to play sports and like be alive and present and energetic in everything that I'm doing. Yeah. I want to feel driven and like passionate and excited about my life. And like in order to be like that, you know, because you see the people that like eat like they're little zombies. I was one of those little zombies, and that's where like zombie. Pulling all of that information so that people can see like, look, you know, like I was like that too. I was also a zombie that like barely could get out of bed every day and was like just watching Netflix, hitting my dab rig, and like, you know, just I had no real plans for the future when I was like 20 years old. Now I'm like, damn, you know.
I was like, I think that's the biggest, I guess, feedback that I get, where when I talk about my diet, and this is like the one thing it's hard for me to understand now because of how much better I feel. Totally. So when people are like, oh, well, I just want to be happy and I just want to live my life. And I'm like, do you think I'm not, like, do you think I'm depressed because I don't eat McDonald's every weekend, or like I'm not out partying? Do you think I'm miserable
because I can't eat a chocolate cake from Wendy's or something? Like,
yeah, like I could still have that chocolate cake, just not filled with a bunch of crap that's
I'm gonna make it at home, or like go somewhere that has quality ingredients.
You think I'm having less fun than you? Like seriously, I'm so confused because literally. I did that, and I don't think I wouldn't trade the stuff that I do now for that lifestyle ever again. But I guess when you're on the other side of the tunnel,
it's hard to see.
It's hard for people to imagine that their comfort food that they have is I'm sorry, I just don't. I used to equate my happiness with the foods that I was eating. I was such a foodie, and I still consider myself a foodie now. I love food. Yeah. But now I understand like what I used to go to Sugar Factory for like fun, you know, like the Sugar Factory where you're literally drinking straight sugar with like gummy sharks and the thing. That was like a fun time for me. Yeah. Where now I'm like, I want like an organic smoothie with like fresh juices and
raw cream, coconut, and like, you know,
like those. I get excited to go to the farmer's market and find like, holy shit, they have raw milk and raw cheese. Like seriously, that's fun for me. Yeah. Where if you had told me to do that when I was 22, I'd look at you like you're a freaking hippie that lives in the woods alone.
Or that it's absolute bullshit. Like you couldn't possibly feel any, but you know, like
yeah, no, I'm like you're a loser and I hate you. Literally, but now I'm that loser that I would have hated at 22.
I'm literally the same. So like great. if me now and me at 20 years old met each other, like fight. they would literally go at it, dude. It's like what the fuck? It's so, yeah, no. but it's the coolest thing, and it's such a great example to show like you can literally start from anywhere. You can literally start from anywhere, and it's never too late. Your circumstances literally do not make your future.
Even my mom now, like my mom's, you know, she's turning 50 this year, and she texts me, I think, every day of like one swap that she makes every day with her food, because she would eat, you know, like she likes to eat like the Cheetos and the chips, and she's like a chocolate person, so she'd have like the ring dings and the Twinkies and those, and I'm like, that's not a snack. Like that has no nutritional value.
Zero.
You can find something else. And what people don't realize is it's not like your body innately doesn't crave a Twinkie.
No.
What it's craving is energy.
Yep.
And sugar is energy. That's why you have people who run marathons, and what do they take? They literally do straight honey so that they can endure a marathon.
Or a plate full of pasta
because they need the carbs and the energy.
Quick carbs and quick
glucose.
When
people are like, okay, my body's clearly craving sugar and energy, essentially, they want to go for the most highly palatable food. And I'm like, no, your body actually needs like real carbs and real nutrients. Yep. And you're going to be way more satisfied with that, because that highly palatable food is going to just make you crave more of that highly palatable food. And it's just like a never ending thing. So that's why I was like, I had to get her away to understand like what her cravings actually mean.
Because it's crazy, like how the body really does signal. Like I've worked with so many vegans that are like, I'm really craving meat during pregnancy or whatever it is, and like, when the body craves sugar, it needs energy, it needs glycogen. When the body craves meat, it's because you're lacking essential vitamins and minerals that can only come from animal products. And like, it's beautiful how the body tells us, instructs us, like, you need to find this nutritional source so that I can function properly. It's like, but we've been so conditioned to like tune out of that information, that data that our bodies are constantly sending us, whether it is the period problems or those cravings. It has a purpose. And
even me, like when I was like peaking my fitness, and this is like the biggest, I think, myth that really destroyed me, was obviously this food freedom, that no food is good or bad, all food fits. And like, obviously in the perfect world, all food fits, but half of this food that we're considering food is not food. Just because it's edible,
it's just that the human body is really efficient at trying to extract anything it can to function. The human body is so resilient and it's so intelligent, but like it can only accommodate so much for so long. It can only synthesize nutrients and like try to extract things that require a vast amount of energy for so long before the body starts breaking down.
No, 100%. Like when you're constantly when you're trying to understand your body and what it wants, food freedom sounds really nice, because obviously it's like, oh, well, if I want Wendy's, I can just go eat Wendy's because I ate healthy all day, or whatever the case may be, right? Like this is kind of like my mindset when I was eating whatever, and I was like, no food is good or bad. And like, okay, that was cute for my emotions. I was like, oh, that's so nice. Like there's no pressure. But that was leading me down a path of so many nutrient deficiencies, because I wasn't checking to see how many antioxidants or protein or just real minerals I was getting out of my food. I was just wanted whatever was going to satisfy me. What was satisfying my brain wasn't satisfying my body. Because again, like I was just kind of making the analogy, like, my body's craving sugar, but am I going to go to the Twinkie or the milkshake or the Froyo or whatever? No, I'm going to go to something that's going to actually be nourishing for my body. A bowl of fruit is going to be 10 times more nourishing than having a sugar-filled Twinkie or having an Oreo. Because I would go to an Oreo, I was like, oh, my body wants sugar, so I'm going to have an Oreo. That was like, I'd have like a whole row. I know. Where like, I've never seen anyone like overindulge in fruit. Like, I mean, there's only so many peaches you can eat.
Absolutely.
Before you're like, all right, I'm going to be sick. Like
humans are like, we're just so
it's very hard to overindulge. Like no one's like, oh my God, I ate so many salads yesterday. That never happened. But I can tell you how many times I reached the bottom of a chip bag without even realizing.
A whole box of donuts to yourself.
Many, many times.
Absolutely.
We're like, now me, I'm like, oh yeah, guys, I ate a whole bag of carrots yesterday. Like that just never happens. It's just so much more filling. And people miss out on that when you're just eating whatever, like, oh, my body craves this. Like, your body's innately not craving highly palatable, null of nutrition foods. It's not happening. Being able to sit there and say, like, okay, I can eat whatever I want. Like, no food is good or bad. Like, I can see why that's, like, why Western dietitians push that from so many different angles. I think the first angle is obviously what I hear from them is that it helps people who are struggling with, eating disorders, which I totally understand. Like when you go from a place of like chronically dieting, what I don't like is that they perceive that people choosing to eat real food and nourishing foods is a form of dieting. What am I going to tell people? Oh, I'm on a whole food diet? Like, That makes no sense. What's dieting is literally thinking
counting calories.
Counting the calories and even counting your macros.
Absolutely.
To sit there being like, oh, this has 25 grams of protein, I can eat that. Because now that what that's done is now opened up another world of diet culture that is the fitness community that's promoting
disorderly
everything with protein.
Absolutely.
Like you can have protein pancakes, protein muffins, protein cupcakes. I found protein brownie mix. Like everything has protein, and now you think that's healthy?
Yeah.
That's horrible for you.
Absolutely.
It's just, like, what is now the difference between just having a Snickers bar and now having a Snickers bar with protein? It's still a Snickers bar.
It's not artificial ingredients.
Yeah. It's still not even bioavailable nutrients that your
exactly
body's going to be using.
Like just eat a steak. Like just
eat a fucking steak.
This is the thing is like I'm super grateful for this, but have not counted calories. I don't count protein. I'm just like, I know that I need to eat food in a way that makes sense.
100%.
I know that I need to, focus on certain pillars of nutrition like fat, like healthy fat, protein, and making sure I'm getting, like a good source of carb or like some vegetables or eating fruit, whatever it is.
And be able to eat the things that you just know is going to make you feel good. Like
absolutely.
It's so hard to think about it when you're in a place of everything fits. Yep. But at the same time, that was so good for me very temporarily because I realized the slippery slope. My cravings took I had food freedom, but I was literally a prisoner to my cravings. Yeah. Because if I wanted that Oreo, there was nothing stopping me from having it. I had no sense of discipline. And I also think there's like this moderation myth, which I've spoken about this on my page before, and I hone in on it a lot because people really think like, okay, well, everything in moderation. And it's like, okay, when we think moderation, we say that we should have something in moderation because we intuitively know that having it frequently is not good.
Right.
So let's have it sometimes. And it's like, that is really a form of self-sabotage.
It is.
Why would if I know something's not good for me, and I made this analogy when I did like a little talk at a festival here in Delray, and I was like, if you got out of a really toxic relationship, would you call your ex every now and then just to be like, hey, I just really want to be sad to like even out my emotions?
That's such a good point.
Just to balance I just want to feel like shit for like a day. So fuck me up, That's so not, like, you wouldn't do that.
No.
But why do we do that with our food? Oh, I felt really good eating, very healthy all week. I'm going to go treat myself with diner food, or I'm going to go treat myself with McDonald's or just some sort of fast food. And then you feel like crap for a day and you're like, all right, it's fine because during the week I eat really well. That was literally how I was eating. That's a form of
it's a form of self-harm too.
And then those are the people that I get in my DMs like, oh, I had such a crazy weekend. Do you know anything I could detox with?
Huh?
No, I don't.
You're like, I don't know if my page is right for you.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't know if you're getting
is there like a cleanse I can do because I really indulged this weekend. And that was literally me because I'd be like, okay, like the weekend I can cheat. And then I'd start over on Monday. Like the body doesn't work on a weekly basis.
No.
So every weekend I was sabotaging myself. Feeling like crap, not realizing that every time you eat something that your body doesn't like, you're creating a habit and you're causing damage. If I like right now, I can't eat gluten because it shows up really sensitive.
Right.
Every time I were to eat gluten, the damage is being done when I eat it.
Absolutely.
That's it. There's no cleanse to decleanse.
And then you have to start over again.
And then that's it. Yeah.
And it's a cycle.
And for some people who have really serious illnesses, like someone who has actual celiac, they could die from a situation like that.
Yeah.
Why? Because the damage is happening literally as you're eating whatever it is.
But because it doesn't manifest in a really profound and
immediate
noticeable way immediately, people just they can blow it off. Yeah. Really. And like they're okay with it, and it just reaffirms that like state of thinking that treating myself like this and not giving myself the love and showing up for myself so that I can reach my full potential, so that I can feel my best and live the life that I want. Like it goes back to that, like every decision you make either contributes to or detracts from happiness.
Yeah, we're literally even now I can eat, like, if I want to go and like make brownies, I could literally just go and make brownies at home with like real ingredients.
That's
whenever
where I'm
want.
at. If I want to eat something that's like bad, right? That I know that my body isn't going to be pissed off at, and that's still going to, like, you know, be like that junk or comfort food or whatever it is, I'm going to go and use organic sprouted einkorn flour. I'm going to use natural sugar like honey. And I'm going to make something, you know, with pasteurized eggs and, you know, raw milk and whatever it is. And it's high quality, and my body's not going to reject it.
Yeah, it's going to be like, this is great.
And you're still, you know, like eating, you're still enjoying your life.
Dude,
and
just the other day, I posted a freaking milkshake recipe because, like, we went, I don't even know where the heck I was, but I saw that there was like a milkshake spot, and I was like, oh my God, I could really go for a milkshake. But I know wherever I have it is not going to be high quality milk, whatever. I made it at home. I was chilling. I was like,
and it probably tastes better than anything you're going to get out there.
So good. And I was like, this is why I do what I do, because there's no better diet than just eating real food.
Real food
the way that we're supposed to eat
is the absolute best. It's when you're so disconnected from real food and you're so addicted to all the chemicals and additives and like artificial sugar that like spikes your blood sugar so high and gets you addicted. The MSG and everything that literally triggers the addiction. Like when you come away from that and you actually are nourished and you can connect, oh, my body and my level of mental clarity is correlated to the way that I eat. Yeah. And like this is where, you know, with clients and everything, you know, I'm like, okay, when you start seeing the benefits, it becomes easier and easier to live this lifestyle, because you can then make the connection like, okay, it makes sense now. Yeah. All of my symptoms from before are starting to dissipate, and I'm starting to understand that like I can actually feel not just good, but great when I eat real food. And you can still eat delicious, incredible food consciously. It just takes a little work and like getting in the habit of doing it.
It's just when, again, like we just live in such a society where food is such obviously a big part of most cultures. I mean, I'm Albanian, so growing up, we were always in the kitchen making food. I always grew up watching my grandma make food. So it's like there was never a world where I wouldn't be able to eat the things that she made. Like that's just how I grew up. And even like I would go, since I was 5 years old, my parents would literally send me off to Albania with my grandma for 3 months. So I didn't really like even make friends or anything. I was literally living on a farm for 3 months every year until I was 18.
That's amazing.
That's what I did. And I was like, I think this is why I'm like the holistic homestead girly that I should be, because I was just exposed to this.
Yeah.
But I remember just like hitting a point where I was like, oh my God, I can never have this food again. I can never do this again. But I just knew in my heart that like I wanted to just go back to the roots of the foods that our ancestors have been eating and the way we've always been eating. Like no one say you could never have a cookie again, or half the things that we have. Like I still go out to restaurants. I still have a good time.
Totally, same.
I do all these things.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not, we think something's high quality, but it's not. Like I remember, like I literally have people being like, "Oh my God, I thought, you know, Wendy's makes just higher quality burgers than Burger King," and I'm like, "What? Like what?" They're like, "Yeah, I thought Wendy's was just like healthier than Burger." I'm like, "It's all the same thing. Like, what do you like? What is actual real high quality? Like, go to Europe,
like it's cooked differently. It's all the same
I'm confused. It's the marketing, but like
we're also
you know high quality when you go to another country and you go to Europe and then you come back here and you're like, wow, that's what like real quality is. We're just so
wired for like the highest level of stimulation and instant gratification. Yeah. Like we want the tastiest thing the quickest way possible. Yeah. Whether it's microwaving, you know, a dinner or like eating the Twinkie. It's like the most stimulating food in the fastest way that you can get it. Yeah. Which is like so opposite to what is conducive to like, because what is food? What is cooking? Like it's really cultural, you know, it's very community centered when you can cook a meal and share and like have gratitude for where did it come from? It came from our local area. You know, these cows, this chicken, these vegetables came from this radius around us. And like that, you know, it was so and it should still be really integral, but we're so packed so tightly. We have to like, you know, have these massive farms to accommodate this densely populated, you know, culture that we have now, and it's just disconnected us so far. But like, you know, people back in the day used to have a garden in their backyard. Like,
no, I know. It was like just the most common. Like, even my grandma, like the gardening really stopped with my grandma. Like, it wasn't like my mom had it, so I didn't really grow up around it unless I went to my grandma's house. And it's just like now my generation again is like trying to get back into it. I'm like trying to garden all over again. I'm like, oh my God, in 2 generations, we've really lost all these in 2 generations.
Quickly we can lose that stuff.
And now we're going to have like all these like AI machines like probably doing the gardening for us. But like it just takes away. I just know that like, again, like food is such a big part. And I know so many people are like, oh, well, like my family makes this, because like Albanian food is a very high carb. Like we don't have a lot of proteins and stuff like that. Everything is like grains and carbs, and that's just like a lot of Albanian food.
Sure.
So it's not like a protein rich diet. So I knew that this couldn't be a part of my lifestyle anymore.
Right.
Like I can't just be eating Albanian food every single day. It's very like I see the types of illnesses that have fallen across a lot of the Albanian community, and a lot of it is like heart disease and just a lot of heart problems because of like high fat. And obviously when you come here and you're trying to cook the same way you were cooking there, it's more Crisco here and canola oil and the Pam, and that's what they use. So it's a lot of that and a lot of carbs and diabetes, and
I'm sure the diet had like evolved to be that way, that high carb diet, because that was what was cheap during like famines and war and whatever. And
Albania is not really like a rich country at all. So it's like that's the type, like you would be able to make with just flour, eggs, and milk, which is all you had access to. You'd be able to make like 20 different dishes with those 3 things.
Right.
If you had meat, like my dad would tell me stories how growing up a treat for him was literally bread with sugar. Like that was a treat. Like that's what they would eat. So yeah, so I know as I grew up, and like a lot of holidays were surrounded with this very like high carb, high fat foods, and I get a lot of DMs about people like, I don't know how I can give up my cultural dishes, and I'm like, I don't know if it's so much the dish more than the community that you get from being in the kitchen and being around those people. So I started to separate myself from like my culture is my food, and more so like my culture is my people. Yeah. So now when I go to these events and I know I can't have, I mean, a lot of it because now I'm gluten intolerant, but like I can't have a lot of the bread and the food and all that stuff now that I care for it now, but I can't go eat baklava and all this stuff. But I'm like, I'm just happy I'm here with my family, and that's where my joy comes from, where like my joy was so tied to the food before. Yeah. And I get that struggle because again, I'm in such a big culture. So I get why Americans, like, food culture here is just such a big thing. And people are like, my food is my joy. Like, you really have to start finding joy in other things, because you don't want that to be the death of you. No. Like, at all. Absolutely, you know? And that was me for a long time. Like, there was no one could have told me, like, I can't have my Wendy's number 7. Like, that was my joy. Like, I looked forward. And there's people who wake up every morning and they're like, if I don't have that cup of coffee, I'm not happy. I know. And I'm like, that's a problem. If you don't see that that's a problem, like, I don't know what to tell you, because your joy should not be contingent on the foods and the things that you drink. Like, it's good for some things to, like, give you that little dopamine.
But it should be really utilitarian. Yeah, like, we should look at food as...
and all these other things. Like, I can name 100 other things. Obviously, food still makes me enjoy things, but it's not like, if I don't have this, I'm gonna like lose, you know.
Because like when you look at like the blue zones, for example, of, you know, the centenarians that live the longest,
I
love
blue zones, yeah.
They have such different diets in like Okinawa and in Greece, you know, and like what can you see that's different than here?
Like, what's the theme of all of those? And
it's community, because some of those people like smoke cigarettes and drink every single day, yeah, literally. But it's because their family units are so tightly knit. The communities are so tightly knit. And
that's what we lack now with all
the
the
missing
phones
piece. We are more disconnected than ever, so geared towards instant gratification, not being able to have a communicative, open, like loving conversation to connect.
Kids are freaking antisocial. They don't talk.
They don't go outside. They're not going and knocking on their neighbor's door like, hey, can Maddie come and ride her bike with me? Like, no one's doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And like, we need that to feel like humans are such communal creatures. We need to feel needed, accepted, to have a purpose, to have a function in our community. And we're severely lacking that. People are just like face down in a computer, like, in their little cubicle and in your own little world. And when you need that like feeling of connection or instant gratification or like validation, you go on your phone.
Yeah.
You get it from social media, or you get it from watching porn, or you get, whatever it is. Like, we're severely lacking that component.
Even like dating these days, like everything's on an app. Meeting friends are on apps. Doing everything is online. Like,
I mean, I met my guy in an app.
But at least we met in person.
Literally, I know. See,
no, but yeah, like I'm like, oh my god. But you see, even children these days are so antisocial, and it's a scary thing because you're like, now if you're locked in your house all day, where are you going to find the joy? Where are you going to find it in the food and the diet culture and all that? And also, I think not only that, but also like even the next generation. If you are being raised by a parent who their joy is contingent on the food, or their stress is contingent on their food, and like how their diet, what are you showing your kids? Because if you're like, oh, mommy can't have that because it's too many calories. But even like, we can even go and talk about like our own peeps, like even like the super crunchy moms, like, oh, like mommy can't have that because it has artificial dyes. Like, all right, we have to find a way.
Doing the same thing.
We have to find a way that it's like not so polarizing and it's like in the middle, like how are we actually educating children on nourishment instead of what they can't have? Like, it's like, you can't teach a kid, like, you can't have this because it's too many calories, or you can't have this. Like, what are we teaching? Like, blueberries or blue foods are high in this, or red foods are high in this, or immune foods are like the yellow foods and you want to eat more. Like, how do we talk about food? Because that's the way that I like to talk with people, is like, instead of telling them all the things that they can't have, we have to start talking about all the things that we can. Because as soon as you tell somebody like, oh yeah, I don't eat that, then it's like, so then what do you eat? And it's like, what do you mean? Because I don't eat Wendy's, you don't know what I could possibly be eating. Literally. Other than that. Like, that's kind of a scary thing, or people feel like they can't eat anything because I told them that, the Gatorade has red dye.
I was there where I would literally choose starving myself over eating something or drinking water that wasn't spring water out of a
filtered,
glass bottle.
You get toxic. Yeah, like
literally.
We were just talking about this. I'm like, and it was, you get through a phase where you're like, I gotta not. Like,
and because you realize, you're like, if I'm trying to regulate my nervous system and not be in a constant state of stress and guilt, maybe I shouldn't be shitting on myself every single day about what I'm eating, because when you're so restrictive, it does become disorderly. And then if it bleeds onto your kids too, like, what is that? It's the same as the mom who's like, no, like, you can't spend the night at your friend's house, or like, you can't go outside.
It's always
you can't. Like, how do you teach your kid to have critical thought? How do you teach them to have, like, a loving and open and creative and imaginative, childhood?
Yeah. And I don't think these are conversations people are having with themselves before they even decide to have a kid.
It's so polarized these days, though, because I feel like now the counterculture on the flip side of the coin, because it's gone so far on the other end of the spectrum, whether it is with dating, whether it is with the masculine and the feminine, or how we raise our kids, it has become
so like.
And it's like,
it's like, it is a spectrum. Like, you need to find that
absolutely
middle range for yourself. Like, I just made a reel on, we can't avoid all toxins.
No.
We can't. Like, it's literally impossible. So how do we become more resilient?
Yes.
Instead of the thing is like, avoid everything. It's like, how do we become
literally
more happy doing other
more
things,
abundant,
more resilient, more
able.
Abundant?
Yes.
Like, where's the more?
Yes.
Like, and that's kind of where I'm at now, where I'm like, I spent such a long time not wanting to make friends because I was like, well, what if they don't like the things that I like? Or what if they're like, they drink Diet Coke and blah, blah, blah. Where now I'm like, all right, how do I attract these types of people that I actually want to like be in my group and be around my kids one day. Like, how do I attract those people and form that community that I want, instead of just shunning everybody out and being like, my kid is only safe with me, or like my people are only safe with me, where it's like, that's not reality.
It's not reality. We don't live in a utopia.
No.
We don't live in a utopia. And then when you like understand that and you see everything that's going on around us and you're like, oh my God, all the toxins, blah, 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 blah.
It's going to be
You
everywhere.
then put yourself in a bubble, and then you're living in that very state of fear that we're trying to avoid. Yeah. Like, I want to live in a state of abundance and just peace and being present and just be like, whatever's supposed to be is going to be. Like, you know, it just is what it is, you know? And like, you control what you can, and then just be at peace with everything else. How do I become more resilient? How do I better enable my body to be, you know, resistant to and able to get rid of these toxins? Because like, I can't not breathe air. I'm sorry, like it's
I can't
in
be
the
like
air.
Bubble Boy and just wrap myself in.
Am I gonna freak out about like the trace amounts of heavy metals and absolutely everything? No, I'm gonna.
That's the trend right now. That's
dude, it is, and I've been seeing, and I feel like you and I were both really on the train of like, oh, look at this has this toxin, avoid this,
no,
and I
100%.
don't have that same fire anymore because I'm not the same person that was like, you know, trying to avoid absolutely every single little thing to where it was like paranoia almost.
I think when you just get, like, when you've been sick for so long, like, you want to almost, like, start fresh.
Yeah.
So when you start fresh, you get into any rabbit hole that you possibly can.
And I'm
You're
glad
like, I need the clean
that.
water. And I'm glad that I did that, because now I think, because I understand it. The foundation is there. So now I know, like, what are the things that I actually need? Because when you go into a place of not being educated, you become desperate and you're willing to try anything. And when you become desperate, that is the worst place to be, because marketing will suck you in, the right influencer will suck you in, and they'll throw you into a diet that's going to either ruin your life, or a workout program that's going to ruin your life,
or the right person in the conscious community, like, wrap you up in their web. Like, it's nuts. It really is.
You know, I have people who have dieted their whole life, and as soon as there's like a new diet that seems a little bit better, they're right into that. Like, I'm not going to be the one that's been like, go carnivore, or go vegan, or go keto, or go just eat
what makes you feel good.
That's it. But you need to figure out what that is.
And this is the approach that I take on with my clients. And I'll tell them, you know, I know that I can be kind of sensationalized, and I definitely have been in the past. I have sensationalized. I am guilty of that. But at the same time, I tell every one of my clients, like, I take on a very individualized approach. Not everyone can do raw milk. Not everyone can do bone broth right off the bat. Not everyone can do carbs or gluten or whatever it is. And so I want to tell you and show you how to take all the data your body's giving you and how to train you to be your own best doctor.
Be more intuitive. I think that's the biggest thing that we've all lost.
Absolutely,
is like, nobody's in tune with their body. They don't know their limits.
And everyone's still going to the naturopathic doctor and this nutritionist to like outsource that intuition and that radical self-awareness.
Even influencers, you know how many DMs I get where I'm like, I can't decide that for you. Like, someone's like, do you think I should work out? Like, should I get in a workout during, you know, my second day of my period? I'm like, how would I know that? How would I know that? Do I have your data on a screen in front of me? I'm like, according to my calculations, it seems that you have enough energy to get in a quick HIIT workout for
literally.
How would I know? Feel it out for
the information that we give you is to better enable you to critically think yourself. I want you to have the tools and the information, the foundation necessary for you to then go off. Do your own fucking research.
Like, does that work? Like, if someone's like, okay, like the cold plunge thing. Cool, love that. As someone I'm a high cortisol dopamine, I need the dopamine because my cortisol is so low, my dopamine is so low. Right. I had to sit there and be like, all right, does this actually seem, because like this would be good for me?
Literally.
I don't know.
Literally.
And it wasn't something I'm just going to throw myself into every trend. I've realized that I feel much better in heat than I feel in cold.
Yes.
So I've gravitated more towards sauna. That's not really like I wouldn't say it's the hottest trend right now.
It's still hormetic stress.
But
But like, everyone's different. Women are biologically and physiologically different than men. And, you know, like for me with the cold plunge and everything.
And I don't want to throw myself into a trend just because everybody's doing it.
And if it feels intuitively wrong, like for me, I'm like, okay, I have injuries. Like, maybe the cold plunge every so often can be beneficial. Is that something that I think for my nervous system and my feminine body that needs to feel like it's in a state of abundance? Do I feel like that's beneficial every single day for me. Intuitively, no.
Yeah, it didn't feel good.
I really
I did
don't.
the cold shower thing for a while. I was like, I don't feel any better doing this. And I think that's
some
what
people do.
Yeah.
But some people
My
do.
My best friend loves it. She's like, I love. I'm
literally.
like,
Some people swear by it, and that's great. That's not what personally makes me feel the best, but that's why everyone needs to take on that individualized
approach.
Watch
stuff like this, and they're like, oh, so you're telling me it's bad? I'm like, no. It's just like, what? Like, where did you get that? Like, no, I didn't like it.
And like everyone looks at you. What supplement should I be taking for this subset of problems? And
I'm like how is that any different than you going to a doctor and seeing like what prescription is good for me?
Dude, it's the craziest thing. Same thing. I have girls come to me.
We just went to the other side.
I have girls come to me that are like, I went to a naturopath. They prescribed me 30 supplements, and I literally asked, did they talk to you about anything to do with nutrition? And they're like, not really. And I'm like, it's the same approach. It's the same model as the Western medical model. It really is. Yeah. And like, it's such a fine line.
There's not enough, I don't think there's enough wellness accounts, like really even talking about that, because I went to a naturopath down here in Delray, and it was literally the same thing, which was so crazy because so for years of being a fit girly, I ended up having like really sluggish thyroid, but not enough to call me like hypothyroid or have Hashimoto's. I'm just like on the sluggish side. So obviously I need a lot of nourishment. I need a lot of minerals. I need more energy and
balance
more
blood sugar.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
Everything.
Instead, she throws like at least 6 supplements on me, and then goes, by the way, we need you to cut carbs and eat mostly plant-based. And I'm like, thank God I do my own research and I am my own intuitive being. Because if I followed her advice, I would have hypothyroid right now. Like, I would be off the bridge of that.
Oh, seriously.
You know, I'm like, thank God. And this is why I'm like, I tell people, it's like, unfortunately, you have to be your own doctor. And I know all the MDs on the socials hate that we have to think for ourselves, but no one's helped me.
Nope.
Nobody has helped me. So what would you like me to do? Sit and rot? Like, I don't understand. Like, what is my solution? I went to a dietitian who told me my diet was perfect, even though I was like struggling. She's like, well, maybe you should go to a doctor. Then I went to my doctor, and then they were like, oh, no, everything's normal. Your blood work, we'll send you to a specialist. I went to 7 specialists, and every single one, although they told me everything was normal, sent me home with a prescription. I'm like, so if everything's normal, why do I have prescriptions to take? This makes no sense.
Because it's their only approach and tool in their toolbox.
Like, oh, you have a symptom, I have a prescription for the symptom. And then there's going to be symptoms from those prescriptions that you're probably going to need more prescriptions.
You're going to have to keep going back, and it's an indefinite process. Like, you have to keep taking this indefinitely. I feel like I experienced this also in the chiropractic model of care as well. And like,
seen that I love myself, because I only do my little cracks.
There's different ones, but I feel like, because I've experienced different sports injuries and whatever that have put me out for different amounts of time. And I'm like, I'm still going down the rabbit hole trying to figure out how to like fix different injuries and whatnot. And like, every chiropractor is different as well. Some take on a more holistic approach. Some are more like that Western model where they're like, you have to come back 3 times a week. Every single week you have to hit the chiropractor for the rest of your life. And I'm like, I just don't feel like, and I get it, the human body is different. We're like looking down a lot more.
There's a lot of habit, like habitual things that we do.
Our lifestyles are very different, but at the same time, I'm like, it's not fixing my injuries, you know? It's like it's,
now what,
like your plan is just to keep me here indefinitely, but you're not getting me back into the sports I'm trying to play, you know? And like every single person is different.
And they tell people this, like, if you're going into if you want to go the Western medicine route, which I think obviously, I'm sure we go through, there's a time and a place.
I'm all for it.
You need to think, like, okay, is there a game plan? Like, okay, doc, you're going to put me on these thyroid meds for 6 months.
What's the strategy?
What could I be doing? Well, they don't even say 6 months. They're like, we're just going to put you on the thyroid meds. If I were you and I was on thyroid meds, what I would do is I would be like, all right, what can I do in the meantime?
Literally.
To try to get maybe wean myself off or have like the lowest level of thyroid medication, because some people need it indefinitely. Their thyroid just does not function for whatever reason. You can't find the root or whatever. What can we do in the meantime? Are there other tests I can roll? What can I do about my diet? What can I change about my lifestyle? What can I add in? Can I exercise more? Maybe the type of exercise I'm doing isn't right, because some people just work out way too fucking hard.
Absolutely.
When you have the fitness industry that's like, work out like a dude pretty much, lift the heaviest weight possible, and then eat like the least amount of calories so you can look a certain way. guess what? Your thyroid is going to crash the fuck out.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be on those meds forever.
Yeah.
So, and that was literally almost me. Like, the amount of thyroid issues in the fitness community is crazy. Like,
what is it? Is it 1 in 6 women under the age of 35 have thyroid problems?
Yeah, and I'm sure that's like...
And 80% of those women with thyroid problems have the autoimmunity Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Yeah.
And it's extremely underdiagnosed. And then it's treated just as a thyroid issue
like
when it's
3 out of 6. I wouldn't even doubt it. Like 50%.
I think
because I technically, according to my doctor, I was normal, even though I was like severely low.
Absolutely.
So I technically would have been borderline like Hashi.
It's crazy. I feel
Which is some completely true. I know, you know, how many women I know that reverse it just from nourishing
just from
your
eating
body.
real foods.
Yeah,
simply from eating real foods. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like
there's no nourishment in the fitness community. It's just macros and protein, and that's it. Like protein, carbs, and fat. Protein, carbs, and I'm like,
such a disservice too for people who are like
potassium.
So passionate about like health. You know. You would think that in that community you would want, because you are so geared toward and focused on.
It's just aesthetics. They don't care about anything.
It's
I mean, that was me. I can talk on it because that was literally all I gave a shit was like how fat is my ass and how lean were my abs. That's it. You could have told me I had a kidney and a liver. I'm like, oh no, what fucking way? I had no idea what those do. I had no clue. Literally, I was like, why do I need to worry about my heart health? I do cardio.
I think that's like, just most of us for most things. Like we are just like, we're not taught how these things affect us long term. No. Like if you do this, it's gonna have this effect.
Yeah.
But there's a purpose behind it. They don't teach us that in schools for a reason.
No, there's a lot that they should be teaching. But yeah, I think especially like when it comes to just health in general is now it's become, there's like two sides, right? It's like the TikTok MDs versus like the wellness people. And I'm like, stop putting me into this extreme side, because there's nothing extreme about just wanting to eat real food. There's nothing extreme about it. No. Because like, I'm so tired of getting stitched by these like Western dietitians being like, there's not like, when people want to just go through the supermarket and tell people what are better options, why does that make you so mad? What does that do for you? Oh, because it's misinformation.
Because canola oil is heart healthy. There was a study that showed canola was heart healthy.
Yeah, done by Procter and Gamble.
Literally.
Who invented it.
Literally. Like, dude, it's I want to see studies who
funded it. But I don't get why that gets them so mad. Why does it get that so mad? Because we want to choose something that's like better. Like someone tagged, I made like a bread reel, and I made people find bread from all over the country that was like with simple ingredients, right? Simple ingredients. And someone goes and tags like some food scientists who I literally can't stand. Anyway, I digress. And I was like, what is she, like, why would you tag, like, what does this have to do with the video? It's just what I like. And she didn't even answer. I'm like, exactly. Because it has nothing to do with you.
Literally.
Me picking a bread that has 3 ingredients has nothing to do with
because
you.
What I see with the
that
dietitians,
it should have canola in it?
The whole foundation of their argument is literally just trying to talk shit about people in like the Whole Foods and Real Foods wellness community.
And I get the extremes.
That's their whole shtick.
What sucks is a lot of these like Western dietitians I do agree with, because I'm so tired of diet culture and everything being a detox and a fucking cleanse.
Same.
But it's like I can't even sit there and be like, I agree with you, because then you shit on us. When I'm not doing anything wrong, because I don't want something that has canola in it. That's my decision. What is it to you? That's misinformation. Okay, it's literally my opinion. You're mad about my opinion. And there's a lot of people that agree. I literally can tell the difference when I have something that has an artificial sweetener in it and I don't like it. I don't give a shit if there's no, I don't care if they said it's cancer preventative. I don't want it. I don't want it. Now what? Now what are you going to do? Okay. You're mad about it because I'm telling other people that this is not what I want. Literally. And they agree with me.
Yeah.
Cry me a river. I don't care. But that's like the basis of like, when I look at somebody's page and all their videos are debunking other people,
literally,
I'm like, red flag.
Yeah.
Red flag, get out of my face.
I feel like that's indicative of not feeling solid in your own philosophy.
What would they even preach about? Eat everything? That's not a lot of content to make.
No, it's not. It's literally
so the only content they can make is debunking everybody else. Debunking. And I say that word very lightly because you're not debunking anything. It's people's opinions. The only thing I agree with is being like, okay, like there's no such thing as a detox and a cleanse this and juice this and selling fit teas and bullshit. I agree with that, and I'm gonna say that. So, people ask me like, oh, do you have any good fat burners? I'm like, no, run.
Or like
work out.
Should I be parasite cleansing once a week or whatever? I'm like, no.
Most people don't even need a parasite cleanse.
No,
and this is someone that sells. Like, I have a parasite cleanse that I sell. But
I'm someone who has done various parasite cleanses. Yeah. And I'm like,
not everyone needs it.
Not everyone needs it.
Like, if that's
I've done them where I literally don't see any worms at all.
Yeah. Like, or people are like, oh, I've been really bloated lately. I think I have a parasite. What? How do you know? You probably just eat like shit all week. Like, you probably just need to take a shit.
Literally, you
probably just backed up. Have some psyllium husk and call
eat a yellow dragon fruit and just call it a day, bro. Just clear it out. Literally,
it's that simple.
It's super simple.
Eat some vegetables.
It's like you probably just have something in your diet that your body is just like not a fan of. It's just
people want to go to the next thing.
Just literally just monitor your own body. Keep a food journal. How many bowel movements am I having? What am I eating? What am I drinking? What was my mood that day?
Or just be realistic with yourself. Literally. Like, I just think like I get so many DMs, especially from like family that are like, oh, I went really hard on like the barbecue this weekend. Like, what's a good supplement from your website?
What?
And I'm like, honestly, nothing, because this isn't a quick fix type of spot. This is like, you have to, if you know you fucked up over the weekend, you ate things you shouldn't eat, you should probably assess what those things are and probably avoid them.
Literally, it's that's it.
It's not like I'm gonna do it again next week.
You don't need a supplement. You don't need to do a cleanse after you drank for the whole weekend. You just simply need to just live in alignment with what makes you feel the best.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why I even stopped drinking, because I was like,
what's the
why?
Point? What's the
I
point?
literally was like, why am I doing, like, why am I babysitting like one drink all night just to like fit in with who?
Yeah.
These aren't even my people.
Yeah.
I don't care to fit in with you guys.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
People say it's the one drug you'll get shit for not doing.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean? And the only time it's like okay is if you've literally been an alcoholic or you're pregnant. Like, those are the only two like okay, that's cool.
It's crazy.
But if you just want to do it for your health, you're like, ew, loser.
I know. Like, you're not
you're
fun.
not pregnant? Oh, like, okay. Like, what? Like, what does that? Okay.
Are you pregnant? Yeah. Like, why?
Why else wouldn't you poison yourself?
Literally, it's absolutely insane. Like, when I would drink a ton, and I'm the type of person that's like, every once in a while, like once every
for a while, and I was like,
once every couple of months or something, I'm not afraid to have a cocktail with like a couple of my girlfriends.
Yeah.
However, I've done the not drinking for a year, 2 years at a time, and like, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But for a lot of people, like, you can't have the moderation.
Yeah.
And it turns into a habit or whatever it is. If you can do, like,
I don't want the source of all my events to be around drinking.
Like,
I don't mind if like we're out hanging out and people are like, I just want, like, that's my husband now. Like, obviously he's been very much in line with, like, I started my health journey right when we met. And it was mostly because like I felt so terrible, and he was just watching me clean up my diet, and he wasn't really joining in because it wasn't like his journey.
Right.
But then like once we moved in together and I was cooking, and he was like, oh, like I feel better. Like, he realized like a lot of his like visceral fat went down. He's like, wow, like I feel really great. And then that's when he kind of got into it with me.
Yeah.
So he used to drink, like, drinking's a big part of just Albanian culture, but like when we lived in New York, we were around a lot of his cousins and his family, and drinking was just part of anything. Like, you'd just be there on a Saturday, everyone's getting hammered, like, bring out the vodka, you know? So we drank a lot, and that was just always what it was. And I was really the first one that cut down a lot. So I would just like babysit a drink because I was like embarrassed to not be drinking.
That's crazy.
You know? Like, I was just like, this is weird if I don't.
That's so
and I don't
nuts.
want people to like ask. And then it just hit a point where I was like, I don't give a fuck because that's just how I am.
Literally.
And then I just didn't care. And then everyone would be like, oh my God, I don't get it. And then people forget, like, now I'm almost like 3 years not drinking. Like, wait, you're still not drinking? I'm like, what do you mean still? Like, that's my life decision. Yep. I decided that. Like, I'm not pregnant. Nothing's happening. I just don't want to do that anymore. But he's slowed down a lot, and like he's realized that he doesn't want to do things where it's like the main event is drinking, or you do something and people are like, let's get fucked up, and it's like, calm down. Like, we're at my grandmother's.
Literally.
Like, chill, you know? Like, I just don't like that. Like, it makes it more intentional when you can just be hanging out with people and like, yeah, okay, you want to babysit a beer while we're all hanging out, just like unwind, relax, cool, I get that.
But you should
be
like,
able when people come over and they're like, well, I got a keg, let's fucking, every time, you're like, why am I friends with these people?
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to
You're
connect?
not in alignment. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like, it's
the
just,
values just don't match up at all.
Yeah, exactly. So it just turns into one of those things where I did it for my health. He doesn't need to, like, not drink for me to, we have a lot of the same things, and we can have fun without it. And he also can moderate himself. Like, he's not, like, drinking a whole pack to, like, get through a date with me. You know? Like, he can have a wine with his steak, and that's cool for him. Where me, I don't need that anymore. You know? Like, it's just not what I need. So that's kind of how we've balanced that. But that's how I feel about everybody. Like, I don't care if my friends drink. Like, like, my brother now drinks way less than he used to, but he used to be, like, the bar guy. Like, let's go to the bar and put down as many beers as we can. Where now it's like, we'll do a barbecue, like we do Sunday dinners, and like he'll just babysit a beer. He's chilling, you know? Like, I get it's much harder for people to just let go of it.
It is.
It is a social thing. It's also like a comfort thing. Like, it's like your little security blanket, you know? So, like, I get it, but for me, I'm just like an I don't give a fuck person. I'm like,
I was a craft cocktail bartender for like a long time.
Yeah, so I'm
someone who just like really like a good
a good
dish
cocktail,
or whatever it is, but like I make mocktails at home and stuff, you know.
That's on me.
Sometimes, you know, I really it's mostly water and like raw milk for the most part, but like every once in a while, like a good cocktail is just like.
Yeah.
It's
when
good.
It's been part of your life for so long. Like, and that's the thing. It's like when you know you're going to have it in a very high quality, intentional setting, then like, who cares?
When it's fresh pressed juice and like, you know, like a high quality alcohol that isn't, you know, whatever it is still gluten free.
Like all the,
And it's like the more medicinal liqueurs, whether it's like green chartreuse, which is not like artificially colored and, you know, stuff like that. But same time, that's like once in a blue moon where I'm like, like just one little vice here.
Yeah, where like that wasn't where I didn't grow up around that. So me, I was just like, there's no, like I always hated beer. I was always like a mojito girl, which now I'm like, I don't even care for a fucking mojito. But yeah, like that's just where I kind of went with the whole
which
like,
is
alcohol thing, and I just don't
amazing.
care for it. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Thanks.
Quitting doing like. I used to vape. I used to smoke cigarettes. I used to smoke a pack a day when I was like 20 years old.
That's rough, yeah.
It's crazy.
And
like,
you just don't. And you're
I just quit.
What?
Yeah, I quit, and like it's so crazy to see everyone vaping. Like I feel like everyone our age, you know, we go over to his friends and like everyone's inside, like got the vape in their hands, and we're both just like. This is
I
nuts.
saw a meme and that I posted, and it was like, I'm so happy.
Talk about security blanket.
It was like, I'm so happy I can get through my day without having to suck on a flavored battery.
Dude, it's the fruitiest thing I've seen. Is like is a grown man sitting there with his little pink and blue, like literally
and it's just strawberry vanilla.
Just it's the most bizarre thing. Yeah, it really is.
It's not my. Matt actually quit when we got engaged because I told him, I was like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, when we got married, actually, he quit. When we got engaged, we started having the talk because I was like, obviously, we're getting married to have children. Kids.
Yeah.
And as soon as we got married, it was done. Like, he stopped. And I was like, I'm glad we both are on the same page. Like, we got GI maps before because, like, we're in our preconception phase for sure, which can be like a year, 2 years, whatever. But I'm like, I just want to make sure that, like, we're starting from, like, we're giving our kids like the highest genetic coding that we could possibly give them, and I don't think vaping or smoking any substance is gonna give them that.
No.
You know?
Absolutely.
So he cut down a lot on his alcohol, which obviously can affect, you know, sperm quality, and I obviously cut down alcohol completely, and we both did GI maps, so we both had to cut out gluten. And I had like H. pylori, which can affect a lot of things during birth, and I'm getting my thyroid under control. So like a lot of things that we're working on, which like most people don't even fucking do shit. They're still drinking, like, oh shit, I'm pregnant.
Which I think is why you and I also like really resonated, because like
I
don't plan on having kids like probably anytime really soon. You know, at least like another 2-3 years.
Yeah.
But I am like...
You're like working towards like
every
getting
single
as healthy
thing
as possible.
I do and started doing from the time that I was 22 years old and just started my wellness journey has been, you know, to be in the best shape and best health that I can be for my kids.
Exactly.
That's why I'm like, I have injuries to heal and like all different kinds of things that I'm like, this needs to be a focus so that someday I can give my kids the best running chance at life. It doesn't start 2 months before, you know, we're like, okay, maybe we'll get pregnant. Or you're like, oops, we got pregnant. Like that doesn't make sense to me. Like bringing new lives into the world should be the most carefully crafted, conscious, and intentional event of your entire life.
I agree 100%. Like, and that's where I'm at. Like, I've always known that I've wanted to like have a family and be a mother. I've known those things. And I think a lot of women say that. But until I got older, I had to ask myself why I thought that and why that was like a thing. Like, why was I like 16 being like, I can picture myself as a mother, you know? So I had to go through a lot of like my own childhood trauma and like really unpack a lot of the things. And I was like, I don't think enough people are having kids for the right reasons to begin with. Like, I literally had to sit down with myself and I was like, wait, why do I want kids? Like, why is that something that I want? Like, do I just want to be them to be my trophies in life?
Do I just want a mini me? That's what I hear so many people say, like, would you want kids? Yeah, I could see myself having like a mini me running around, and I'm like, what does that even mean to you? Like, would that make you proud?
I want them to be their own individuals in life, and like, if my kid comes out completely different than me, like, I want to be able to nourish those needs that they want, you know?
Absolutely.
So it's like, and I know that I want to have fun with my kids and do all these things, but the biggest thing is I want to set them up for success, like, from their DNA.
To be able to critically think, to have that solid foundation.
I want my kids to question me and be like, why is it like that? I'm like, oh shit, never even thought of it, you know? That's why I know a lot of people, I wasn't raised to question anyone.
Neither was I.
You know? So I think there's a lot of things that I had to go through, like, not just emotionally and physically, like, to get ready to, like, want to have kids. But I don't think enough people are having those conversations with themselves, and definitely not with their partners.
Absolutely not.
You know?
I think a lot of people aren't even having the conversation of, like, do you want kids and what does that look like to you until they're, like, well into a relationship. For me, I'm like, it's imperative that I know right off the bat, like, what does that look like for you?
Everything.
Because, like in order for me to even be attracted to someone, like the values, the core beliefs and values, like, have to line up basically parallel to each other.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise, like, it doesn't even...
We're not going to mesh.
It doesn't, like, I don't...
If you're having kids for a different reason than I'm having kids, this isn't going to work.
It's not going to work.
We're parent different. We're not going to be on the same team.
And it's going to end in divorce.
Yeah, which I think that's a lot. Like, that's why people think that a kid fixes it when a kid actually can highlight all the major differences.
Absolutely, it can.
Yeah, which is like a whole other fucking Pandora's box that I can go into, is like the whole parenting thing. But yeah, like, I'm just at a point where I'm like trying to get back to like a balanced mindset about my health and like not being so polarized about every little thing. And it's so easy to go down that path. People are terrified. Everything has heavy metals and everything's toxic, and I get that because we've all been there, but I just think you get to a point where you're like, okay, I can't do it all.
No.
So what do I do that makes sense? And like, how do I build that foundation? How do I have healthy habits and have that sense of community? Like, what's important to me is like getting sun, moving, having a sense of community, making sure I have purpose in my life. Like, there's people who don't have purpose.
I know.
What do you want to do? What is your passion?
Where does depression, anxiety, and all kinds of different issues stem from? It's first of all, feeling like shit. Second of all, it's having no purpose or community.
Yeah. Because I had to figure out, like, what... I'm glad that now I, like, found what I feel purposeful, like, doing. And that's obviously, like, being an educator and teaching people and just being really into my health. And even, like, the arts. Like, I've discovered that I love painting and doing all these other things. So I'm like, I have my little hobbies and things that I like. And I love my sports.
Multifaceted people.
Yeah.
Like, the human
I don't want the only thing I do is just being, like, a birth giver.
Children.
And that's it. And that's my purpose. Like, that's great, but I've seen it done, especially culturally in my environment growing up, and it leaves so many women in their 40s lost. My kids don't need me anymore.
Sad to be aging. Who am I?
Yeah,
my only identity is mother.
And now I don't need to mother anymore.
My whole purpose has moved out of the house.
My kids are going to be parents, and they don't need me. And now the only thing is now I'm just going to be a caregiver now for their grand. It's just like the cycle continues. And I want me to be a mom as like one of the many things that I've accomplished.
Absolutely.
And not just like the only thing.
I feel the same way.
And I think even if I think
and it's going to make you a tenfold better mother.
Yeah. I mean, there was a study that came out saying that mothers who work or just have, you know, like they go wherever and they have work and their daughters watch them working, their daughters end up being more successful as they get older.
It's the same with exercise too. The more active a mother is, directly influences how active her children are going to be.
Which I'm like, both my parents were so active. Like my mom was a swimmer, my dad played soccer. I was active my whole life.
Mine was super sedentary. My mom was super sedentary. Like I was not raised to be in sports, and you had to work out, to
do those things.
And I had to figure it out when I was 22 years old. Like, oh my God, you know, kind of unpacking how everything in my childhood directly affected my personal philosophy, my sense of self, my daily habits, my behaviors, the way I interacted in interpersonal relationships. And it's wild to go, oh my gosh, all of this matters, and like kind of go and say, okay, well, this is how I want to raise my children. This is first how I must cultivate a life myself. I have to be that. Cultivating the life that I know is going to make, first of all, me the most happy, me feel the most fulfilled, me be the healthiest and like most proactive, productive, and like influential version of myself, where I can like service other people. But all of that is going to impact how I mother someday.
Yeah, and kids watch you. Like if they
Absolutely.
say if you want your kids to read, you read. If you want your kids to be active, you be active. Like you think I'm going to put my kids in sports and I've never touched a sport in my life? How are they going to relate to me? Who are they going to go to? Like these are things, like if I want my kids to be into the arts, like the only reason I'm into reading and I'm into half the things that I'm into is because I watch my parents be like avid readers. Like we grew up without TVs and things like that. Like it was just kind of the beginning. But I didn't really have like a computer. It had like dial up. So if I was only on it for like small increments when I was much older. But I saw my dad every morning. I saw him reading a newspaper. So I wanted to read. And every night we'd read together, and we'd only be around like music. And that's why I love music and I dance a lot. And I love reading and I love learning. And like, because I saw my parents doing that growing up, and those are things. And I think another thing is I never saw my parents partying. I never saw my parents drinking. My parents have never had a drink around me. I also never saw them argue. So I think that's a big reason why I have the relationship I have, because Matt and I are literally best friends. We don't argue. I'm not much of a drinker. We're both really into sports, and I'm really into the arts, and like we have our balance. And I think when you don't realize, but when you watch your parents be a certain example, you can either cultivate that and make it your own, or you're like, I don't want to be anything like them, and then you have to completely be different. So it's like, which one do you want your kids to be? Do you want them to be a lot like you or nothing like you?
Right.
And that's a big question I think people need to ask themselves, because I think when they have kids, they're like, I want you to be all the things I wasn't. And that's how you put all these like unnecessary pressures, or you turn your kid into a freaking narcissist. Yeah. So it's like, which one do you want to be, you know?
It's
Definitely don't want that.
It's nuts. Yeah, so much goes into it. I would love to ask, like, how did you and Matt meet?
Honestly, it was like technically through Instagram, but I would go, like, so every year we'd, like, me and my friends would like rent a house and we'd go away, into like usually into Poconos, into the mountains, and I ended up going with his friends from college, and he had no idea that like I was there. So I guess he saw me with them at the house or whatever, and he just was interested. So he ended up following me. I used to play soccer a lot at the time. Like I'd go to a field nearby and I'd just like kick around. I'd prop my phone up and I'd record some shots that I would get. And that's kind of how he slid into my DM, essentially, was like asking like, oh, where do you train? Blah, 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 or like whatever. And I was like, oh, I don't train. Like I just kind of shoot around. And then literally just kind of dubbed him for like 3 months. And then eventually, like through conversation, I was like, oh, he seems really cool. Like, let's see what he's about. And then we eventually hung out, and that was it. Like we just aligned, honestly. But it was kind of like there's a lot of people that could vouch for him.
Right.
And vice versa. Like his friends were my friends. We just never got a chance to meet, essentially. So that's kind of how that worked out. And then that was it pretty much. Yeah.
I feel like with your partner, in order for it to be the healthiest, happiest, and like, you know, most balanced way is like to have your partner be that healthy reflection of you, right? To be like that extension of you. Someone
you want to be a team. Like I never want, like I remember growing up and being in other relationships, and people would be like, oh, like you're so good for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, is he good for me?
Right.
Like that's a weird compliment, you know? And
absolutely.
I don't want to be good for somebody.
Someone's entire driving force forced to be a better version of themselves. Like, you should come together as like this incredible whole happy fulfilled version of yourself, and come together,
two complete people coming together and making like
and
this super person,
amplifying both of it. Like, it's supposed to be like this alchemical experience of where you both come together already great and make each other so much better. I used to find those to be
compliments and be like, oh, you're so good for my son, or you're so good for I'm like, and back then when I was like young, I was like, oh yeah, I'm so good for him.
I'm
like,
so special.
Yeah, and it's like, no, I'm actually going
it's toxic.
To be
his mother. Yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen it. I've heard it so many times with people around me and family members, and I'm like, with other people, and I'm like, ugh. Little do you know. But yeah, like now when people obviously describe Matt and I, like, because we work together, like he has, like, I'm founder and he's co-founder of Healthillie, so it's like we work so much together, like we really are a team. So it's so much more of a compliment, and people are like, wow, you guys really complement each other, and you guys are really a team, and like you guys are a power team. And, like, people, like, our nickname for a while was like the dynamic duo, because like we're always just like working together, because we are our own individuals. Like, God forbid we ever like broke up, he'd still have his identity, I'd still have mine.
Absolutely.
But it's just, that's how I want it to be. Like, I never want,
how it should be.
And that's how it should be. But a lot of people think that it's like,
it's
we're
gone
two halves
back.
Like,
well,
no,
and it's gone back to the super polarized, like, traditional gender norms of like you have to be the homemaker, baking the sourdough bread, raising the children, and your entire identity is being that
of service,
feminine giver. Yes,
give
absolutely.
Everything that you have.
Give everything you have, and your entire personality is cooking, cleaning, changing diapers, and just being birthing and whatever it is. And then the man is,
or you're like a momtrepreneur, and then you don't want kids, and you don't want. It's like there's no in between. It's
literally.
Like, why can't I literally?
Why can't you do both?
Be both?
And then we get chastised, or the argument is like, women now, everyone wants women to do it all. You have to work the 9 to 5 and pump and have the kids and do everything. And it's like, where's the partner in this?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but where's the partner? Where's this symbiotic yin and yang nature of like having that person?
And I think that shows, like, when that's someone's rebuttal, it's like, oh yeah, you just expect women to do it all. We have to work and be the mom, the CEO, and then we also have to be. It's like, Where is your husband?
Where is your husband? Man? What is he doing? Literally,
you're
like
just sitting back watching, like, you do it all,
like, literally, I don't get it.
I'd be damned, because I think, I mean, I feel like we have best of both worlds, because obviously I get to be a CEO, and I also get to be I would be a stay-at-home mom, obviously. So like, I literally just get to bring my kid along for my life, and I get to work and have my own passion. So I really have so I can really speak on both sides, because I'm like, I really hit the jackpot, thankfully. I mean, I cultivated this life for myself. Same with Matt. Like, this is what we wanted. You intentionally
and consciously crafted this.
Because I knew that I was like, I don't think there's any, like, both my parents grew up working. So I saw my dad during the day, and he would watch us, and then he'd take the stroller to the train station. My mom would come home from work, and then I'd have my mom at night. And I think there's this kind of misconception that it's like, you know, your parents aren't there, they're working, blah, blah, blah. But you can have a mother who stays home all day, and she's scrolling on TikTok, and she tells you to do whatever you want.
Hands you an iPad.
Or you have parents who work, and they know they're only going to have 4 or 5 hours with you at night, and they're giving their
quality time.
And that's what I remember from my parents. I don't even remember my parents doing that until I was older and they told me. Because I just remember how present they were. My mom was doing our science projects, my mom did all of it. Like, they did everything, my parents. And obviously, like, they sacrificed because they had to literally do it all. But I saw a podcast, like, clip, snippet, whatever, of, it was a father and wife, a husband and wife, and she obviously is the stay-at-home mom, and he worked. And he was like, yeah, like, the hard, like, and it was, I think, like, a psychologist or someone kind of stitched it. And he was like, yeah, the hardest job in the world is being a mother. And the psychologist came in and was like, actually, the hardest job in the world is being a parent. But men want to just throw everything on the mother, and then they wonder why we're all drained. It's like, yes, is the child going to need the mother, but it also needs a father. Like, we've all heard of mommy issues as much as daddy issues. We already
know the statistics on crime and imprisonment.
So for you to think that your only job is a provider, now you get to go home and kick up your feet, what is that telling your kid?
I love what Zach, my man, says about his dad. Like, you know, he grew up, his dad was working all the time, worked really hard. Zach is one of 12 kids.
Oh, wow. Holy.
One of 12 kids, Christian family. And, like, he remembers that his dad worked really hard, but when he came home, he was so present.
Yeah.
He gave his all to his family when he got home.
And that's what your kids remember. They don't remember that you work 9. They can't even tell time at that point. They don't know if they're working 9, 12 hours, whatever. They just know. And that's literally what I remember. So when people like want to dish on working parents, I'm like, I turned out way better.
What did you show them? What did you show your kids?
Because just because a mom is home doesn't mean she's
good, that she's a good mother, that she's teaching the children the right morals and exemplifying like what she believes they should live their lives as.
That's a full-time job. If you don't have time, if your husband's not coming home and giving you time to disconnect and reconnect to yourself and give yourself self-care,
thank you.
You're a drained mother.
Thank you.
So you're not even able to if you can't fill up your own cup, how are you going to fill up the cup of your children? And your kids are going to understand, like, you know, many of my friends who had stay-at-home moms, and I only know from like what they've told me, and they just like, the only way that they describe their mom is like, oh, she tirelessly and sacrificed for everything, was like, almost felt like pity. And I'm like, and this isn't obviously to shame on any like stay-at-home mom, but I think if you're going to do it, you have to make sure that your partner sees you as an equal.
Absolutely.
Because if they don't see you as an equal, you might as well be a single mom.
Absolutely.
Because you're already doing it yourself.
Yep, that's right.
And then you're picking up after your second child, which is your husband.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be damned.
Yeah.
If you think I'm going to stay home working 24 hours a day, and then you get to come home and, oh, I'm so tired. Can't fucking relate. Oh my God, I would freak out. So I love that Matt and I both get to be home and like work from home and be stay-at-home parents, because it's going to make our jobs easier, and we're not going to feel like, if I need a break, I can take that break.
Yeah.
If he needs a break, he can take, and we work as a team, and that's
how
what it should be. And no one can deny that obviously the best job in the world is not just being a mother, but also being a father, and you have to work together. Like, I made a preconception blog, and I was like, the number one thing to preconception is making sure you're choosing a partner.
Absolutely.
That's going to see you as an equal, and not just like, oh, you're a mother, and then like, even that guy in that podcast was praising his wife, like, she's the best mother in the world. And you can tell this lady's fucking exhausted. She's like, yeah, because you do nothing. You don't do the laundry. You don't pick up after yourself. You don't even cook your own meals. You don't do anything for the children. You taking them to the park every now and then isn't really being a father.
It's crazy. I feel like this conversation like really isn't being talked about because it's going so far
because people think that it's, oh, you're always just it's like mom shaming. It's like, you never hear father shaming. Because they're not even fucking around.
Because I feel like we're still dealing with the aftermath of, like, viewing men and women as, like, whole human beings. Like, women being able to
I'm not worried that I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom and be, like, I'm doing everything.
No.
Like, I know that that's another thing, is I don't think a lot of men, and this goes back to the conversation we were having earlier,
good point,
want to have kids to be a parent. They want it as, like, the trophy of having a family.
Right.
Like,
and they
it's
have
like
no
the perception
clue of every component and factor that goes into
like, what are you teaching your daughter if
you
you're
want
not
the
around?
legacy, but how do you craft the legacy?
Yes.
Right.
They just want the last name to the kid.
That's right.
It's like, what are you going to do to
you want to
nourish
continue
that?
your lineage, but like what is building that legacy look like?
It's such an egotistical way to look at it, and I feel so bad because every time I talk about motherhood, obviously I'm not as a mother, I usually just try to invite people to like share their experience.
Right.
But it's always I feel so bad, these stay-at-home mothers that are like, I practically have a third child, and it's their husband, and they're so tired, and they're like, how do I teach my kids to be healthier when my husband just wants to come home and have a beer every night, and he doesn't want to involve them, he doesn't want to take them out, I'm like, girl,
you chose the wrong person.
You chose the wrong person. I don't know what to tell you, because I would
There's
be
no
damned.
solution there other than he gets better, or
he needs to go to therapy and figure out, why did he have those kids to begin with.
Literally.
Because I think there's like this big, again, it's like so polarized, where it's like, as soon as you tell women that they can do it all, they feel this overwhelming pressure to do it all. And they know, I think a lot of women know innately, that if they want to work and have a passion, that no one's going to be able to take care of their kid because their husband's not. And he's not, it's like this weaponized incompetence. Like, oh, I don't know how to change a diaper. I don't know how to I saw someone didn't know how to play with their child. They said, say, hey, sorry, I don't know how to connect with my kid. Like, what do you mean? Like, how do I play with him or her? And I'm like,
I've had girlfriends,
to their own inner child.
It's
these are things you need to rough out before.
It is.
It's crazy.
And like, I think that becoming your whole human being and like having those standards of like, I want a partner, I want a teammate, I want someone that views me as an equal. Like, yeah, we're biologically and physiologically different, but I feel like intellectually and, you know, passion-wise and the way that we're able to impact the world and should impact the world. Like, I really do feel like we all kind of have a duty in this day and age to make the world a better place, to live your life, lead by example. And like, that's not just men. Men aren't the only ones that can or should lead. It's women as well. And like, you're the leaders of your children. Both of you are setting an example. And so coming together with someone that is like that direct reflection of you, of your drive, of your passion, of your, you know, like companionship, of your teamwork, and of like wanting to see each other succeed in every facet of life is so imperative for then putting that and teaching that to your children.
No, 100%. And I think this is like a conversation not enough people are having, because it automatically is like everything just falls on the mother. And I just don't think, obviously, and I think obviously children at first, you're going to be either breastfeeding or formula, and children innately want their mother.
Of course.
But that shouldn't mean that you should be also doing everything else. Like there needs to be a balance.
How does the mother show up in her best and most vibrant and like intuitive way if she doesn't have her best friend and her partner supporting her to be able to do that? Like, you can't. That support that you had, that sacred, it's a sacred trinity.
You know it's an issue when people are like, oh, it's so nice that your husband helps with the kids.
It's so pathetic. It's just pathetic.
Divorce.
Literally. It's not, but like, I think that when you are someone that like is competent, is passionate, can do all these things, wants to do all these things, and can show up as the best mother, your partner is going to respect you more and is going to want to facilitate and cultivate an environment that like amplifies that.
And I think this is a big worry that I have, because it's like, or for just women in general, is like, if you're a young woman and you have goals in life, how does your partner respond to those when a child comes to play? If you go, hey, we plan on having a kid, I think I'm gonna, you know, I have my leave, but after my leave, I think I want to go back to work. I think how they respond, if it's not in a supportive, like, okay, how do we get you to do that way, that should be like a huge red flag.
Telling.
That should be very telling that you're not an equal part of this relationship.
Absolutely.
You are just a caregiver to everyone. You're a homemaker. And I think people are like, oh, like, we want to go back. And you're
basically almost objectified there. Like every other component of
you're a babysitter.
Exactly.
And again, I can't wait to be a mom. I think that's going to be one of the most important roles that I have. And it makes me so happy to think about
and you're going to be incredible. You're going to be one of the best moms ever.
Our kids are going to be little friends.
Yeah, let's do it.
I just think that makes me literally so excited. But I know how I want to show up as a mom, and I know how I want my partner to show up as a father. And I know that I want my kids to feel the exact same love from both of us. Like, the energy is just in it. Like, that's it. And I don't think the energy is in it when your kid is only seeing you practically just do it all. You're already doing it all just being a stay-at-home mom.
You're plugging every hole of a sinking ship.
And then
what does that teach your kids? What does that teach your kids about? What does that teach your daughter about being a woman? And what does that teach your son about what to look for in a wife?
Yeah, and I think exactly.
What does that teach your son about how to show up as a husband, as a human in the world? Like.
Yeah, I think that's the scariest thing, because I want my kids to know that, like, their parents, we come first. They will. And we come together, and this is how we are going. Like, we are truly a family, and like we are a team. Yeah. And I think a lot of, and I usually see this with like the very, like the Catholic or the Christian wellness influencers, and I don't think they even realize, and we spoke about this a little bit, I don't think they realize that you showing up on a platform and even getting money through like doTERRA or whatever is having a job.
So many of them have businesses.
They have jobs. You're not just a stay-at-home mom.
You're preaching your philosophy and way of life.
You're
a leader. You're creating passive income. All of those qualities by nature are like masculine.
Like a real stay-at-home mom isn't doing that.
Is doing nothing.
She's watching you people.
Literally.
Tell everyone that you should be a stay-at-home mom. It's the best thing in the world.
And then all these young women are like,
passion.
all of these young women, I'm seeing this too, like, how do I find someone that wants to pay all my bills? And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
he's not even paying
do you think, I'm sorry, but do you think that you're going to come together with a man that's like a multi-millionaire, whatever, wants a traditional woman, and you do nothing with your life? All you want is to just be a stay-at-home mom that does nothing and is just, you know, he's paying all your bills and everything, and you're just the caregiver. Do you think he's going to respect you as an equal? Do you think he's going to value your opinion?
Unfortunately, no.
No, I'm sorry, but like this is.
I don't know if I was reading something or I heard it in a podcast. This is like where my mind goes, but because I never know where I hear anything these days.
Seriously.
But if somebody was saying that women, it was about high achieving women, and it says high achieving women either have to settle, or they have to find someone just as high achieving. An equal partner, which I would consider that would be me because I wasn't going to fucking settle. That's for damn sure.
No,
but high achieving men will almost never go for a woman that's equally high achieving.
Yeah.
They always want to go for someone that has little to achieve.
Because,
and that's fine if that's the route that you want to go 100%, but you have to understand that that's your role.
Yes. Yes. And that
I think a lot of women get into those situations.
That archetype of male too, because like I've you know, I was in a relationship with that archetype of male for 3.5 years of my life, where you're.
I've been in a relationship with someone where I didn't realize that I was also high achieving, and they didn't like that I was. So it was like,
and it's a jealousy issue.
Yeah, and it's
because
like,
the reason they go for like the pretty, the reason they go for the young, pretty, malleable, impressionable, you know, one that wants basically nothing, has no passions, interests, whatever it is to make themselves, by contrast, feel better, more powerful. A lot of people are
gonna hate this conversation,
but it's fucking true. But it's true, and I've witnessed it, I've lived it, and like it just, when you hear the Andrew Tates and whoever talking about all of this, like it's blatant, it's plain as day. Like, you want something that validates your ego and way of living, as opposed to having someone that challenges you to be your best self, and that will also.
Why would you want that?
Why would it's more fun that way? That's fun. To me, that's fun. It's exciting to be with someone that you laugh with every day, that can challenge you, that wants to see you be the absolute best version of yourself and wants to help you get there.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Like I've dated people where like I know for a fact if we continued on, I wouldn't have the business that I have today, because they would have never allowed it.
Of course.
And they just make you feel like it's just so condescending in nature, where it's like, and then there's also this perceived where they because again, like that guy in that podcast who was like, oh yeah, my wife does about, like, they glorify you so much that they almost manipulate you into a position to be like, no, that is the best job. I swear, that's the best job ever.
You would feel guilty to find pleasure in any other activity, whether it's like, you know, a side hustle or a hobby.
Yeah. And you can tell they don't even encourage you to have those.
Of course not. Of course not.
You should never, because the most important thing you can do is be of service to your family.
And I still see this. Like, the highest purpose, the only purpose a woman should have is being a mother, is being a homemaker, is being a good wife, but above all is being a mother. And I just, you know, I feel like when I was a little bit younger, I'm 26 now, and I've had to like really weed through and kind of develop my own philosophy through just trial and error experience and what my intuition and just soul frickin' tells me. And like, identifying with being just a mother just doesn't fit. It just, I can't wait to be a mom. I cannot wait.
We didn't fight, like, I'm not like, oh my God, super fun, because I think there's, again, polarized. Right. It's like, you cannot be in the middle. But I do feel like I'm in the middle, because I'm like, I set myself up as an entrepreneurial woman. I set myself up so that I can also be the best mother that I can be.
That's exactly right.
I really hit the middle ground with that, because I'm like, I literally get to work from home.
Yep.
I have a business outside of being an influencer. My influencer thing that I do is generally because I like doing it.
Yeah.
But I have my actual business, my warehouse, my bread and butter that I have, and I'm passionate about that too. And guess what? I get to bring my kids along for the ride. And they get to watch their parents be successful, be passionate about what they do. And like, literally, like, I wanted this for myself. I was like, now this is my 30 year. So I'm turning 30. I've spent the past 3 years really trying to cultivate how I want to show up as a mom. And like, now I can actually be excited about starting a family, because I'm like, I'm in it. Like, this is I'm healthier than ever. I'm focusing on my health.
Yep.
I'm with the partner who literally sees me as an equal being and is not afraid of like, it's very rare.
It is rare.
That you have a masculine man that's okay with you being in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And Matt is like the most, like he really does run our house. Like the house is ran because of him. He pays the bills. He does everything. And then I'm cooking. Like we definitely have our gender roles. And I think that's the healthiest thing is like
it is.
People would be shocked about that because as an entrepreneurial woman, you're supposed to be the masculine. He's just automatically supposed to be the one holding my purse in the back.
No,
like,
you find your balance behind the scenes because so you masculine. Both are very, and it's the same
you see you
with
walk
me
in,
and
he's
Zach.
just like a dude,
Absolutely.
You know? He's just like, everyone meets him, he's respectable. He has that very much like masculine energy.
Yes.
And the only time I have my masculine energy is when I need to show up as my CEO person. But other than that, I can fall right back into my feminine at home.
Same.
Because he allows me that.
And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
It's like your man should encourage you to be that full person and
It's
achieve
about balance.
your dreams.
You're not just, okay, you're only in your feminine,
but
you're
come
only in your
together.
masculine.
Everyone is supposed to have balance inside of us. You have a healthy balance of masculine and feminine energy. I have a healthy balance of masculine and feminine energy.
And you can flip-flop into them,
And like this is the thing, is like
hop
it
into a
does
meeting and then go dancing
fluctuate
after.
depending on who you're with, what situation you're in your relationship. And like you should be able to come into your relationship. Like I'm a very nurturing, loving, and like caring and giving person. Yeah. And then I can also subsequently be very like authoritative and have that leadership qualities and go after it and like be aggressive in that way.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's what's gonna help me achieve my dreams.
Yeah, I think people get shocked when they're like,
you can do
we work
both?
together. Yeah, like it's just, and I don't feel spread thin.
No.
At all.
This
but I feel like when you tell women,
fulfilling.
I don't feel spread thin at all. Like I'm like, I'm living.
This is you getting the most
self.
out of your human experience.
1000%. And I that's how I want people to feel. Like I never want people to hear a conversation like this and be like, oh my God, you're just shaming stay-at-home moms. You're shaming mom. It's like, no, it's about finding, like, if you know that being a stay-at-home mom is your role,
do that.
Not because your man put you in that role. It's because that's the role that you want. Because so many women are put into that role without a discussion.
Yeah.
And if there is a discussion, it's like, well, I'm not going to quit my job, so you're going to have to, and you're going to watch the kids, and there's no way you're going back to work. And it's like, okay, I guess that's what we're going to do. But it's like, just so you know, that's the best job you're ever going to have. And we're going to worship the ground that you walk on. And that lasts about 6 months.
Yeah.
And then he's off to work.
And the resentment builds.
And the resentment builds.
The arguments start.
And then the divorce rate is 50%.
Here we go.
And that's how it gets into it. And I'm like, if that's the role that you want, like, you know that you want to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's the role that you chose, your heart chose that,
dying to
then you know you're going to be the most fulfilled.
And that's beautiful. And that's
1000%. But if you choose to not have kids,
literally,
and be a mom, or have kids and be a momtrepreneur, and you're bringing your kids to work, whatever, then
beautiful. Power to you.
Fuck yeah, do that.
Literally,
and I hope your man is the one. My freaking chiropractor, and I love her. She owns her own chiropractor. She's there almost every single day. Pregnant with her third. Her husband is a stay-at-home dad. Yeah. She's all the way there. She's doing the complete opposite. Yeah. And she's like, it works for us. Yeah. And I'm like, good for you, because that is literally doing it all. Yeah. It's like, you're literally pregnant. You're a chiropractor. Literally. Working as an MD, like doing your thing, and your husband stays home.
But if that makes you happy.
And if that's what you want to fucking do.
And you feel your best doing that, fucking do it.
Then fucking do it.
The whole thing is when you're forced into roles
for other people's benefits.
Yes.
And I'd be damned.
Yep.
To be put into a little box because someone told me that I should be on this side or I should be on this side. Especially in my culture, being the stay-at-home mom is praised in my culture, like especially European cultures. Like, so for me to be like to work, a lot of people get worried. Like, how are you gonna do both? And I'm like, that's not for you to worry about. Because I feel like when the time comes, I'm just gonna be moving right along because I have a support system of an equal partner that's also going to have a hard job, and we can
conscious conception starts with who you choose to have kids with.
Yeah, and I think that's where people fuck up.
It is
because there's people who I thought
you can do everything,
and I'm like, yeah, you probably would have been a fun marriage, but not a good husband and not a good father. But you would have been fun. Go party and do things, but I can't do that forever. No. Like, I want to settle down and, like, be the person that I want to be. And, like, now I feel like, who would have thought? Because you feel like you're supposed to have everything figured out at, like, 22. But yeah, at 30 now, I'm like, okay, I feel like I could do the damn thing.
Yeah.
With the person that I picked,
Absolutely.
and he picked me, and we can do this together.
Yeah.
And that's how I want people to feel. Like,
that's how it should be.
Shouldn't be scary when you're like, what am I going to do? How are we going to figure it out? It's like, you just trust.
Yeah.
You're going to figure it out because you picked the right person.
Absolutely right.
That's where it starts. So yeah, it's a lot, but I think that's the key for people.
Yay.
Yeah.
I loved this conversation
This was a
so
random
much.
one.
It was all over the place, but I feel like we touched a lot of amazing things.
Like the main things.
Yeah, absolutely.
The most important things that we talked about.
Yeah, of course. This is exactly what I wanted, and I hope you're cool with kind of just cutting it off here, but it's been so fun to have you on, and like, thank you.
I'm happy you came.
Yeah, we're going to go play some pickleball.
I know, yeah, we're going to get me into pickleball now because I need to be a true Floridian. And
yeah, let's go, girl. We're some snowbirds
paddle
now.
Some shit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we're snowbirds.
But thank you so much. I think that you're like a huge inspiration to so many people. And like, I deeply resonate with you, and probably the most of, all the influencers and everything.
I know, and I was like, oh my God, you're in your bios. Like, I have to chat. Because I just feel like there's some people I just naturally gravitate towards. Like, chill with all of them.
Yeah.
But some people I'm like, no, I feel like you're my peeps.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super down to like be friends and raise some kids together, man. Play some freaking pickleball.
Little community. Yeah. Pickleball kids.
Dude, pickle kids. Like,
pickle kids.
I cannot wait for you to try it out.
No, I'm going to be like obsessed. This is the start. This is the day. Put in the calendar.
This is the day that you're gonna start with a goat paddle, and you're gonna start playing pickleball, and you're gonna be a pickle queen, girl.
I know. I hope so.
We're gonna play a tournament together, and we're just gonna crush them, girl. We're gonna be like, yeah, apparently we play pickleball now, and we're just crushing everybody. People are gonna get all lit up about us now playing pickleball, and they're gonna be like, what happened to you?
That's where it started.
That's where it started.
Video footage.
Literally.
Of the beginning of a beautiful pickle team friendship.
Yeah,
no,
and
I'm hype.
It is really hard to find good people though, and I feel like
it's
here
so hard.
I've been super lucky to find a couple really good girls, but for the most part, yeah, it's just like I'm in build mode right now, and like have to be for the next couple few